everybody calls me Stokes. My friends call me Stokes, so we're all friends here today, so please call me Stokes. All right? And where should we start? First, does anybody have any questions just right off? Or I can start off. Yeah, right on the end. Yes. And speak loudly, please.
Quick question. How many Broadway plays have you been in?
How many Broadway plays have I been in? I think I've been in 11 now. And then there's off-Broadway as well. And does everybody know the difference between Broadway and off-Broadway?
Yeah.
And I've done about 5 off-Broadway plays as well. Who else? You had your hand up. Yes.
My question is how would you what kind of advice would you give to people for getting auditions and stuff like that?
Oh, getting auditions, that's an excellent question. Thank you for that. What kind of advice do I have for people getting auditions? There's lots of ways. There's so many ways I can answer that question. Let's see where to start. First, know what you're doing. One of the things I say is the most important thing to do is to be prepared. Know what it is you're auditioning for, and really work hard to show your best self. If it's a musical, work on your song, know your lyrics, have it memorized, know your music, have your music out in front of you as well as for the pianist. If you haven't had a chance to rehearse it with them. And just work things as much as you can. There's a really, really great book about auditioning that is one of the best books I've ever read. And I think it's called The Enraged Accompanist's Guide to Auditions. And the person who wrote it is an accompanist, because when you go to auditions on Broadway, there's always somebody on the piano for musicals. Bless you. Twice blessed. There's always somebody playing the piano. So this person who wrote this book is one of those Broadway pianists, and he has played for dozens, if not hundreds, of auditions. And what he learned was what people should do at auditions when they come in. One of the things is, I always used to say, you're on Broadway, and this is probably true for here as well, your audition starts at the door. Because how you walk in the door tells the people that are sitting behind the table a lot about you and who you are, and if you're ready to go, and if you're excited, if you're nervous, because you can see it in body language. Oh, say, Mr. Mitchell, come in the room, please. Say that. Somebody say that. Mr. Mitchell, come in the room, please. Here's my music. Okay, I'm going to say, who's that person? What is that? Does that person look confident?
No.
No. Okay, so say, Mr. Mitchell, come in the room, please.
Mr. Mitchell, come in the room, please.
Hi, everybody. How are you? So nice to meet you. I'm so happy to be here. Give me 1 second and let me go over the music with the pianist. Here's the song that I'm going to do. It's in this key. I'm going to start on this measure. I'm going to end on this measure. And let's just listen to each other and have fun. Okay, I'm going to do, and I'll do whatever song I'm going to do, Corner of the Sky or whatever I want to say. And we'll do the song. And thank you. And then you start. So that's how you want to present yourself. Because the person, thank you. See, I've got applause. It got a smattering of applause, but that's applause. I'll take that too. But so your audition starts when you walk in the door, because the people sitting behind the desk are looking at that. And that's the first way they kind of are deciding who you are, if you're somebody who's ready to do this, if you're excited about being here. Now, one of the things it says in this book, which is really interesting, is on Broadway, and here probably as well when you do this, he corrected me when I read the book. I thought, oh, that's much better. He says your audition actually starts in the room, in the waiting room. Because on a Broadway audition, on a professional audition, there's generally somebody that's sitting out there at the table that's kind of the monitor for the room, and they sign people up, and they get people water if they need it. They tell them what's going on. They tell them what order they're in and everything. But the interesting thing is, at the very end, once all the auditions have ended, that monitor also comes into the room. And they talk to the choreographer and the director and whoever might be there, that it was the folks that were sitting behind the table. Because sometimes what happens is the director or choreographer will say, oh, we really like this person, John Smith for this role. And we think he's going to be perfect, and he seemed like he's really nice. And does anybody have any comments or anything they want to say? And sometimes the monitor might say, I just want to let you know John Smith was not very nice in the room. He was really rude to everybody in the room. He was really rude to me. He was disrespectful. He was like bothering people as they were trying to prepare. And so just keep that in mind. The problem with being an actor is there's a whole lot of us. And everybody wants the job. So they usually have a few choices. And people want to work with people that are going to be fun to work with and pleasant to work with. So just remember that your audition actually starts at the door. The other thing is about an audition that I would say, and I'll get you next. I love your enthusiasm. That's so fantastic. The other thing about auditions, if you ever get an opportunity to sit behind the table like the directors do and the choreographers, if you have friends or anybody that's doing that, or if you have the opportunity here to do that, it's a really great way to learn about it, because you'll just see yourself with your own eyes. When people walk in the room, you'll see who's doing a great audition. You'll see who's not prepared. You'll see all the things to do and not do. And that's a really, really great way to do that. It's just to get that experience and say yes to that. But get that book if you can, because there's all kinds of information in there about how to prepare a song, how to prepare your music, what to expect when you go into an audition, all of that. The Outraged Accompanist Guide to Auditions. Yes, you over there with a great hand, yes.
How do you feel when you don't remember your lines?
How do I feel when I don't remember my lines? Well, I feel embarrassed, and I feel nervous, and I feel scared, and that's happened sometimes during a show. Even on Broadway, sometimes a show that I've done a number of times, there was a show that I was doing called Kiss Me Kate. You guys know about that. Mr. Woodson was talking about that. There's a song called Where Is the Life That Late I Led? And there's a lot of lyrics in the song. And I was always afraid. As a matter of fact, when I auditioned for it, I messed up the song. And I had to kind of just start all over because it's a really tricky song. It's very wordy. But during the show, I was fine. But one day, actually, I was singing the song and I couldn't remember the words. And I've gotten really good at kind of making up my own words to kind of think through it until I catch up. But I couldn't on this one, and I just finally got lost. And I looked down at the conductor, who's this famous Broadway conductor named Paul Gemignani, and I just said, "Stop, I'm lost," to the audience. And I said, "Maestro, can you help me out here, please?" And he looked down at his lectern, which has no music on it, because he memorized all the music, and he looked back up at me and went, So then the audience laughed because they saw him do that too, and I finally got myself back. But the funny thing is, audiences kind of love being in on that kind of thing when something happens crazy or different on the stage. Oh, remember when Audra McDonald forgot her lyrics to that song and she stopped the show, or Brian Stokes Mitchell did that? That's something that it becomes fun. And if you do that, the best thing to do is just laugh. Because if you start getting tense about it and everything, it makes things worse in your brain. But if you laugh, there's something about laughter that just relaxes you more, and you just kind of go with the flow, and you'll get right back into it. And especially if you've been rehearsing it a lot, you'll know exactly the lyrics, and they'll come right back to you. So that's an excellent question. Thank you. What was your first question, too?
Memorization tips for them.
Memorization tips. You know what? There's a whole lot of different ones. One of the things, as you get older, and you're not there yet, one of the things I found out is the more I do it and rehearse it, I kind of started just memorizing it automatically. It got to the point where I would read it 3 times or rehearse it with 3 times, and I would just have it memorized mostly, maybe not word perfect, and then I'd have to kind of go and look at the words that I got wrong, and I would circle them. My mom taught me a technique, which is put a piece of paper over your script and say the lines, and then you kind of reveal them to see if you got it right. And what you got wrong, you just circle it. And then you correct that, and you get it right the next time. So the more you do it, the more it works. But the other thing is important, by the way, say it out loud. We're in the theater. The scripts, the words that were written were meant to be said out loud. It's not like a book. It's not like a poem, that are meant to be read and taken in. These are meant to be performed. And when you say it out loud, it also puts it in your body in a different way. And sometimes, if you're having a hard time remembering something, just having a body movement with it, like, oh, this is where I'm going to pick up the cup of tea and take a sip of tea. And if you do that every time, even as you're rehearsing it, that starts becoming a thing that kind of programs your body. It's almost like a computer, and you start attaching that line to the movement. And a lot of it is just logical, you know. Maybe somebody's first line is, "Hey, I'm really crazy. How are you feeling like today?" And your response is, "Oh, I'm feeling whatever." So those lines are easy. Monologues are more challenging because it's just you. And those are really good practice, because then you're forced to kind of figure out the speech. When I learned also, my scripts look like a crazy person. There's notes in the margins, there's all kinds of lines, there's all kinds of different color coordinated things that I put in it to help me memorize it. And I would get different ideas every time I do it. Now the big trick is, and you'll get to this place, is after you've done all that preparation and you've figured out everything and you know what your blocking is and you know all your different ideas that you have for your choices, here's the trick, and this is what most professional actors I know do. Then you just forget it all. Because what happens is, if you've really done the work, it'll be there. The words will be there. Everything will be there. And what you don't want to be thinking in your head as you're doing a scene is, here's the part where I pick up the tea and I say my line now. And it becomes mechanical that way. You want to do it so that when you say the line, it's just like I'm talking to you now, and I take a drink of tea and I put it down, and I'm not thinking about really what I'm doing. So you get to that place where it becomes very, very automatic to you. I think everybody gets stage fright, and nerves are not a bad thing. If you have too many nerves, that's not good, because then when you're singing, your voice makes funny sounds, you know, or you get nervous, and people tend to get very, very tense. But nerves are good because it kind of it gives you a little shot of adrenaline, and it gives you a little extra energy when you're coming on stage. You want to have just the right amount. But I find I don't get stage fright really anymore. You know when I get stage fright is when I'm not prepared. And that happens sometimes if I'm learning a new song. I do a lot of concerts now. If there's new material, if I'm doing something new with somebody else, and sometimes even if I do a TV show and I'm not prepared for it. And I was on Glee. I was Leah Michelle's dad on one of her two dads on Glee. And and when I did that show, we did this number, but I ended up losing my voice. And because of that, and they give you your scripts kind of at the last minute, because of that, it was really difficult to do the scenes that it was like the worst memory I ever had doing a shoot, because I couldn't speak. I couldn't say it out loud. I needed to rest my voice for a week, and they had to actually pause the shooting for me. They rescheduled it, so they rescheduled it for later. But I didn't get to put the words in my body in that time, because I could read it in my head, but I remember having a really hard time with it. And it's just, sometimes you just stop and you just take some deep breaths and you tell the director or you tell them there, hey, just give me a moment. And they don't want you to take too much of a moment because it's really expensive to do a TV show or a film or any of those things. But you do just take some time on your own and take a breath. But the best thing is to be as prepared as you can.